what happens when this work permit expires and I don't have my permanent residence. Hi everyone, my name is Rika and thank you so much for stopping by my channel again. As you can see, I'm trying to be outside again. Let's see how this works out for me. So in today's video, I want to talk about losing my job because of COVID, losing my job while on a 1-year work permit, and just how I felt and how I recovered from that, and the type of toll that it took on me, how uncertain, how emotional it was, how mentally draining it was, and just how I felt about how it would affect my immigration status here, because I did also worry about that. And if you know any background on me, I don't actually have family in Canada, so I wouldn't necessarily be going through this and be like, oh, I can call on so and so or whatever the case is. And at this point, I had not been home in over a year. It was very difficult, and if you're going through something similar to this, I think this video would be really good for you to watch, just to feel encouraged and just to understand that it really isn't the end of the world, and things do turn around. Before I go any further, don't forget to like this video, share, comment, subscribe. Let me get back into it. So as you may or may not know, I did a postgraduate certificate at Humber College in Human Resources, and I graduated in 2019 with my postgraduate certificate. I did not work in HR prior, and I just thought that this was a change that I wanted to make. My previous experience was in banking. I've done because I was a teller, and then I worked in marketing, and then I transitioned to Canada, and I decided I would go into human resources. I did my course, and that was 8 months, which is like an academic year. And I started applying for jobs about, I want to say June. School was going to be done in August, so I started applying in June, so that would give me sufficient time to have snag a job, right out of school. Let me just kind of fast forward. That was kind of just background, whatever the case is. This time it was pre-Roro, so different times, but now it's crazy. So then I applied. I believe the job that I eventually got, I used agencies. And also just kind of know your worth, because when I went to a particular agency and I spoke with them, the lady was telling me that I didn't have a lot of experience and stuff like that. So the best that she could possibly get for me is a job that probably pays $17 an hour. There's nothing wrong with making $17 an hour, but I just felt like for what I was offering, and given that minimum wage is $14 an hour, I kind of felt like $17 an hour was kind of low. But I didn't disregard her advice. She didn't end up producing anything, and all the offers that I got were above that, so that's okay too. But kind of listen to your gut, because I'm glad I didn't pursue it too hard, because then I probably would have been stuck in a situation where I wouldn't necessarily be able to make ends meet. For the job that I eventually snagged, that was the only HR position that actually called me back. It was a contract position, and it was for 3 months, but I was so grateful to get an actual HR position. And just kind of like a point of information as well, I had gotten 2 offers at the same time. One was in customer service. The customer service position would be actually paying me more than the HR position. But when you think about your career, the longevity, and how far you want to take it, and with the relevant experience, how much you are going to make in the future, it's definitely best to go with the one that aligns. Because sometimes people say, or you'll think, or it will happen, or you can go in the company as exposition. Sometimes when you go as exposition and you try to go up in the company, all they're ever going to tell you, especially if they don't necessarily have the type of training that allows you to get additional experience, is, oh, you don't have the type of experience for this position that you're now applying for, and then you're almost stuck in that position. And I've seen that happen many a time. So I gladly took the 3-month contract. It was close to my house at the time, and I was just so happy to be working. Took the 3-month position. I was there, very excited, go work every day. And this would have been in winter, and that winter was terrible. It was not very fun at all, but I was at work every single day, never called out. The job is going good, etc, etc, etc. The 3-month contract would have ended in December. I don't think in the interview we had discussed it becoming permanent or anything like that, or I think they had said possible extension. I honestly don't remember all of that interview and everything. So anyhow, possible extension, great. So in December they offered me an extension, and sis was very happy because you know, like, that means that you're doing a good job. That means that I'm getting the relevant experience that I would need in order to continue growing in this field. And with HR and many other fields, you need a certain amount of experience to do some certifications. So given that I'm getting experience and growing and, you know, all of that stuff, like, I was very excited about it. I was also learning things in a field that I was very excited to be a part of. All right, so now sis contract extend till now March 2020. That's a very exciting time for a lot of us for very different reasons. So extended to March. That was in, so it was in like the events planning business. So as you can imagine, events planning took a real hit when it came to rural. Events plan, like, it's literally people gathering, right? And when you're going to have a situation where people are no longer able to gather, like, I mean, there doesn't need to be that many resources. So and I'm on contract, and my contract was extended, and the extension was going to end in March. So it's now March. Roro hit. You know, you're hearing things and the different meetings and whatever the case is and stuff. So I kind of felt it coming, to be honest. And like, realistically, like, you're on a 3-month contract. Like, the business won't fall apart if you're not there, to be perfectly honest. And that, you know, I'm thinking to myself, so I had started applying even before they had said anything to me. So like, my contract was going to expire the end of March. I saw, you know, what was happening, like, you know, the beginning of March, etc., whatever the case is. We were keeping an eye on COVID, so I started applying to other jobs from like the beginning of March. So then the end of March, we had a meeting, because usually they would have a meeting to extend the contract. And we had a meeting, and that meeting was not to extend the contract. So I wasn't necessarily sad, because I totally understood. I feel like I learned a lot at that place. And I was so grateful for them to give me that chance to actually start out in HR. When I had gotten laid off, as I said, I wasn't upset or anything like that, because I totally understood. But then, if you're on a 1-year work permit and you're planning to apply for permanent residence, you see the implications of not working even for a very, very short time. To get that 1 year of Canadian work experience makes a whole lot of difference in your PR application. So when you're now going to be short a couple months, or, you know, whatever the case is, when you're not going to be short a couple months, it's going to affect your points tremendously, and that's not something that anybody really wants, especially when they've already invested so much of, you know, their time and effort, etc., and, you know, money and all that stuff. So I took it on the chin like a champ. I went home, I continued applying, and, you know, no one really called me. Like, we were facing very uncertain times. No one really understood what was going to happen. It was very scary. A lot of companies were losing money. We couldn't go anywhere. It was just kind of, it was very scary. I didn't really have anyone around me in terms of, like, you know, for comfort or anything like that. Like, I'm still in a fairly new country, because I would have been going to school the previous 8 months. The last 6 months I would have been at this workplace, and I didn't really go out much. So, like, there was no in between there. So it was kind of tough. I applied for places. Only one place called me back. During that time that I was home from April, May. So I was home for 2 months. No, I was very skeptical about applying for CERB. I think Canada Emergency something fund or reimbursement or whatever the case is. So I was very nervous about applying for CERB, because I'm thinking, will this affect my application for permanent residence? Am I even eligible for it? I have a 10%, because, like, when you're on a work permit in Canada, and when I was in the US and I was on a work permit, my SIN was different as well there. Was it different? I think the SIN wasn't valid without a work permit, if I remember correctly. So the SIN isn't valid without a work permit. So now I'm saying, like, will I be able to apply for that? Like, as I mentioned, I started getting sad. No, even though I wasn't really, like, going out like that or anything like that, I still rode the bus. I still had a reason to get up in the morning. I still had you know, steady income coming in. I wasn't meeting, it was a revolving door of customers or clients that were speaking to me, but I still had, like, human interactions with my, you know, co-workers and everything and stuff. So when all that suddenly ceases, I'm not working from home, I'm just there. That was very difficult for me. Like if I'm to be perfectly honest with you, that was very difficult for me. And I'm very social, like I really like talking, and I feel like at that time I really missed like my immediate family a lot more than I had ever throughout this entire process. And I think what also made me just even more sad was, as I said, it's a work permit. What happens when this work permit expires and I don't have my permanent residence? Like, what's going to be next? Like, I know sometimes people are like, oh, the government must do something or whatever. Like, I didn't have that in mind. I just thought, well, the government isn't going to really want a lot of people in the country anymore, so they're going to be trying to fix what's here already. So why would they care about extending, any type of work permit or giving me permanent residence after this? So like, I'm just going to probably have to just work this out and see how it ends up. So those are some of the thoughts going through my mind. I wasn't getting any callbacks from any other companies. I had just got that one interview, and I was still applying to a lot of places, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like like what is going to be happening for this? And even though I was only home for 2 months, those 2 months honestly felt like 2 years, because it was such a different time. And nothing was the same, nothing was like before. I feel like everything was slowing down. I was worried about what my status would become in a couple of months, and what was next. All this happened in March, and then in April, I started, I think, getting CERB or whatever the case is, and then I know that you would have to pay back the taxes on that money that you would have gotten when you did your tax return. So I was just like, okay, that's fine. The more I learned about it, so I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. So that means I am eligible and I can apply for it and whatever. So I want to say then May rolled around and I got the call for an offer, and I was just like, oh my gosh, yay, like I got a call for an offer. And I was able to start working again. And even though it was mainly working from home, having a reason to wake up, having a sense of purpose, it really made a difference. And I believe it was around that time that I had started making the YouTube videos, because it really gave me something to do, because I was realistically doing nothing at all. And yeah, like that just really helps me. It's still, I mean, the lockdowns haven't, I don't think they've gotten easier, because I feel like I've adapted, but it's still something that I would prefer not to be experiencing right now. I haven't been like breaking the rules or going anywhere. Like, I have been home this entire time, which to some extent now kind of feels almost like a punishment, because you've been home this entire time and you haven't been doing things that have, or at least not that I can see, have directly been aiding or indirectly been aiding the numbers going up. And it's just like, I've been home this entire time, I've been very good, but nothing is really changing for me per se. Hey, Editing Rika here in all my greasy glory. So I just kind of want to further explain. So when in March, when I figured I would have been laid off, and April and May, I would have sent out quite a few applications, and only one company reached back out to me for a series of interviews, and they were the ones who presented me with an offer. And I just want to say how almost miraculous I felt that was, because if you've sent out quite a few applications and only one company reached back out to you, and that one company made you the offer of it. And I feel very grateful about the about how things turned out, in terms of I got that one. All I needed was one yes, and I got that one yes. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share, comment, subscribe, and if you can only be one thing today, choose to be kind. A lot of people are going through a lot of things, and not necessarily because we don't know people personally means that we can't necessarily share in their healing by just spreading a kind word, or just being a decent person. So feel free to be kind, and give me a like and leave me a comment. And I hope everybody's mental health is doing well in these unprecedented times, and we will continue to be a brother's keeper. And yeah.